Hello, my name is Dina Ocampo and I'm from the UP College of Education. First of all, I would like to thank the Polytechnic University of the Philippines for inviting me to your conference. The International Conference on Research in Higher Education has been going on for 5 years. So congratulations for that, especially to President Manuel Mugi. Um, the theme of the conference is indeed very timely, leveraging cultural and technological diversity towards new opportunities for Industry 5.0. The world is changing very fast, and indeed, we need to think about this and we need to reflect on it. My topic for our session today is changing education for future change. This talk has helped me in thinking about how education impacts on the present and the future. And I think this is a transformation in education that we must foresee in the next 50 or more years. If you look at the slide that I am sharing, I will begin with the 21st century context. But I would like you to pay attention to the graphic behind the title of this slide. This is a network of intelligent systems that are interconnected and evolving. This representation is what I suppose we need to be able to push education forward. Funnily, the living organism that is caught in this photograph has been around for thousands of years. This is mycelium, which is what connects mushrooms and fungi to each other when they need to communicate. That is how intelligent a mushroom is. And I suppose that is what the kind of intelligence we should all aspire to have, to be able to respond and maintain relevance in the coming years of the 21st century. One of my favorite characters in the Avengers series is Doctor Strange. In the last few years that I have been thinking about how education is going to evolve, what the impact of this evolution will be for the different people in the Philippines who have different social and economic contexts. I wish that I could peer into the future in the same way that he does. However, because we don't have the gifts of Doctor Strange of being able to look into the various possible futures, I think we have to listen to future scientists who have been studying our world for many, many years, and they have actually identified megatrends. Before the pandemic, megatrends have already been in discussion. Megatrends are transformative global forces and patterns. And these patterns are very important to identify because the future world is based on what we can predict or guess, intelligently guess about business, society, economies, cultures, and personal lives. Megatrends impact on the future of work and on the future of education. And these are the two aspects that I would like to discuss today. Before the pandemic struck in early 2020, megatrends identified were the following. Technological advances would be driving a lot of our work and education. There will be the rise of the individual. Precisely because of these technological advances, there will be more technologies in our hands. There will be more mobile technologies, and we need to work out how this enables the individual to determine how to learn, how to act, how to work, how to interact with others and the environment. Speaking of the environment, the megatrends also included climate change and resource stress, resulting from the way people interact with each other and the world. Urbanization is going to happen. It is continued to be or seen to continue as a mega trend. And then there are emerging economies, changing demographics. In some countries, the demographic population changes show that they are aging populations. In our country, we know that we continue to be populated by young people. And of course, health and well-being was identified as a mega trend. And that's what exploded in 2020. COVID-19 has changed our world. It pushed us to go forward into the use of technology for those who have technology at their fingertips or who have access to technology. But it pushed us further away from those who didn't have it. And I think this is a very crucial item to remember, that we need to be cognizant of the disparities that are arising. These disparities were already there, but because of the way COVID-19 has changed the world, these disparities have been magnified. Furthermore, we already have a term for the world we are experiencing now. They call it the VUCA world: volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity are words that describe the realities that we face now. In fact, it's very difficult to be able to navigate such a world because, to be honest, sometimes it goes too fast and we aren't able to take a breath and think about what is going on. For example, in 2021, a group released what happens in an internet minute in 2021. They release this every year. But in 2021, 4.1 million people were scrolling on Facebook. 21.1 million text messages were sent. 500 hours of content are viewed on YouTube, and so on and so on. It's changing the way we obtain information. It's changing the way we get the information. For example, a lot of apps are downloaded. People are reaching out to others. Like on Instagram, 695,000 stories were shared. 200,000 people are tweeting in a minute on Twitter. There are 2 million swipes on Tinder. People are trying to reach out to other people. 197.6 million emails are sent, and so on and so forth. So what we do know is that people are reaching out to others through technology much more than before. In a fast-paced and a VUCA world, there are dangers that arise. And these are dangers that we must recognize and acknowledge as present. For example, we saw the term alternative facts come into fore. I mean, what are alternative facts, right? And these are efforts at misinformation, deliberately creating materials to misinform, to revise history, to weaponize media and social media. And these develop poor habits of mind, and they exploit the lack of critical literacy to process all this information that happens in a minute. And of course, what many parents and teachers say is that children and learners, young or old, including myself sometimes, I admit that sometimes I forget that I need to verify whether what I'm reading on the internet is actually true, right? And so being able to verify sources is an important thing to remember. This is the way we can neutralize a VUCA world. And this is also the way we can stand for truth. Because truth is what is important. Whether we like the truth or not, that is what we are looking for. after the pandemic or during the pandemic, our future thinkers or future scientists continued to explore what the mega trends would take us to. So they looked at economies. There will be a shift in economies. They continue to be urbanized. There will be smart cities. Technology will bring us driverless cars or flying cars. There will be human machine affinities, and machines will help augment the limitations of human beings in certain aspects. And of course, there will be augmented education. I mean, just now we are already looking at hybrid learning or hybrid teaching. We are looking at what they call HyFlex, where some students are at home, some students are in school, and these are augmented education paradigms. The emerging economies include emerging currencies. I mean, somebody has to explain to me what a cryptocurrency is, to be honest. But it's there, and a lot of people are trading it. So these mega trends are going to happen, and the prediction is that this is something that we need to talk about now, because there will continue to be stresses on disease, climate change, the security of people in terms of water. Will there be enough water for the world? We don't want to get to the point of living like Mad Max in the future. So we really need to discuss the future of work. In the last few sessions, I think that we have already been briefed and challenged by the advances that will happen around the world in terms of Industry 5.0. And I think that these challenges are important to name, important to identify, describe, understand, because this will change things that we are used to. For example, it challenges the Philippines and the Filipinos about what to do with their present so that their present results in a future that is relevant. And this is where I bring up one of my favorite characters in my other favorite character from Men in Black. I mean, the Griffin is a character who is able to travel through time, past and present, and of course future. And he is able to see the good, the bad, and the ugly in all of these times. But he can't do anything about it. So I guess he sees Industry 5.0. And so he sees the effect of Industry 5.0 on the learner, the educational process, and the teacher. So we've been briefed that Education 5.0 is an iteration of the changes in, Industry 5.0 is an iteration of the changes in how work has been done. In the first phase or the first wave, it was to mechanize industry. In the second phase, it was like the factory. The third phase, it was huge machines. In the fourth phase, there were cyber physical systems where there were robots already. In the fifth phase, it's a human and machine interaction that's going to happen. It's aimed at supporting, not superseding humans. It's about finding the optimal balance of efficiency and productivity. And it is about refining collaborative interaction between humans and machines. And there are many technologies that Industry 5.0 will create and make available. For example, human-centric solutions will happen. Then interaction technologies, real-time based models. For example, when they make movies now, they already put all these sensors on human beings and then they turn them into animations. And with the animations, they can push further what this character can do. At the same time, it's very important to be able to keep people safe in the time of very fast and very powerful technologies. So cyber safety is cyber security is very important. Artificial intelligence. And then, of course, to take care of the planet, we need technologies for energy efficiency. Of course, we would like technologies that we can trust. And therefore, this means that the people who make these technologies must be trustworthy. And how do you make sure that this happens? In the studies about Industry 4.0, one of the biggest and most important generalization that was drawn was that robots are indeed precise and consistent. But humans are flexible, creative, critical, problem solvers, and communicators. And at this time, robots are not yet like that. So there is a need for us to look at how can we make the human being more powerful and more relevant in the time of robotics. And this is now the impact on the future of higher education. I think that the future of higher education depends on innovation and humanism. And this is why it's important for us to have learners and for us ourselves as teachers to think, love, live, learn, protect, defend, because we must protect those that we love, that we must protect our profession, we must protect our world, our homes, and our learners. And this is very important because if we don't do this, if we don't become humanistic about the future of education, we will lose it to a place or a model that does not include the uniqueness and the power of the human being. Education should change also. In Education 1.0, it was really more about rote learning. In 2.0, it was internet-enabled learning. 3.0, a lot of knowledge-based education. And of course, in 4.0, I'm trying to, there is more innovation-based education. So it's very important for us to see that there is a change in the way education is delivered. And I think we need to check, are we still doing our teaching through Education 1.0? Or are we doing a hybrid of 2.0 because we were forced by the pandemic? Are we more focused now on getting our students to innovate, or do we want them to memorize up to now? 5.0 is about humanizing education. It means we identify skills and roles that are best fulfilled by humans in this age of technology, and we maintain mindfulness about these interactions. We also want to make sure that students are prepared for transformations because the world is going to change very fast and these mega trends are going to carry people forward. And so we need to have learners who are able to morph and adjust. And this brings up us to learners. Again, my favorite characters from one of the movies I like, these learners show us that emotion are very important variables in learning and in acting. So it's important for us to be able to help learners recognize that in their humanity, the unique feature of their humanity involves emotion, and that is okay. Being able to express our feelings and share those with others distinguishes us from the artificial intelligence that is present now. We also need to learn a lot of literacies. Before, we would just learn about reading and writing, numeracy, but now there are more and more literacies that are coming up. For example, in the rise of the individual, lifelong learning is necessary. In a technology advanced world, there needs to be a lot of digital and information literacies. Learners need to hone their skills in these, to understand debt, economies, and businesses. Students or learners need to know about political literacy, financial literacy, economic literacy. And of course, in urbanization, it's very important for us to remember our culture, and therefore cultural literacy is very important. If we don't do that, then we will be assimilated by the dominant cultures around us, and we will forget who we are. So these literacies are very important to develop. What else? We will see evolving communication systems, and therefore we need to equip our learners with ways to learn how to communicate digitally, in person, through text, meaning the written word, the spoken word, and of course navigating the various tech platforms for communication. Students are learning new languages as well. Um, you can learn a new language very easily by using an app. I use one every day for about 10 minutes a day to learn a different language. Um, People are learning languages to communicate with computers, and that's really important as well. Next, we need to understand emerging economies. And I think that this is crucial because the business models are changing. Hybrid models are also changing. During the height of the lockdown, all of us experienced having to engage with businesses through remote means. No, and this is happening worldwide. We also need to remember that because of VUCA and the nasty people who exploit a volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous world, there are actually people who make a living out of that, creating chaos. You know, it's very important for us to develop and strengthen critical thinking, problem solving, and creativity, not only in our students, but also in ourselves. You know, we cannot remain to be pawns in Industry 5.0. In the future of work, to be relevant in that work environment, we should be drivers, creators, and critical consumers. Another thing that we must remember is that culture will shape the future. Learners need to know who they are, where they are from, who they came from, because that will harness and push uniqueness in the designs that they create. And these designs, as said by Mr. Robert Peters, design creates culture, culture shapes values, and values determine the future. And I think that's a beautiful message to remember, that culture is the basis of our values, and that how we behave and speak now and in the future is actually driven by our culture. You know, one of my most favorite characters is Yoda. And he did say that it is difficult to see the future because it is always in motion. And I think that is so true. There are many things we learn from Yoda, and I will borrow from him for the rest of the talk. The UNESCO shared with us 4 pillars of learning in the 21st century, and I would like to summarize them for you. The first pillar is learning to know. And when we learn to know, it will lead to an understanding of the world we inhabit and of ourselves. It also leads to capacities appropriate to the current reality of the times. And of course, it allows us to learn. I think that one of the most important aspects of learning to know and learning to learn is being mindful of what we are learning and of our commitment to learning. As faculty of higher education, we need to be present for the learning that happens to us when we prepare for our students. We need to be mindful of what effort we put in because that is the future, the foundation for future learning and evolution. Students need to understand and we need to communicate to our students that what we are teaching them today, what they are learning today, is transportable knowledge. This is knowledge that will allow them to reinvent themselves when the need arises. And as the workforce or the work context changes and demands. The second pillar, and, and Yoda reminds us of that a Jedi must have the deepest commitment and most serious mind. This one, a long time I have watched. All his life, he has looked away to the future, to the horizon. But his mind, never his mind on where he was. And so being mindful of what we are doing now is very important because it will shape the future. Thank you, Yoda. The second pillar is learning to do. And this leads to learning into practice in the workplace, learning collaboration, teamwork, deliberation, cross-cultural communication, and becoming better at the job. So the objective of learning to do is to improve. And I think this is very important for us because if we are moving away from lecturing and rote learning into innovative learning 4.0, then on to interactions with machines, then we need to become able learners and able to collaborate with others, and others now will include machines. So for example, now I have to learn how to use this software called Zoom so that I can reach out to you even if I am in the confines of my home. And as a faculty member, our beliefs, our strategies, the impact of these beliefs and strategies on our students, and of course, our personal goals will help us become excellent university professors or faculty members. And we are always aiming for excellence. In the pillar of learning to do, it's not just novice learning. It is going forward to expertise or going forward to the understanding that we are always learners and we must always practice. We cannot just be talking. We must practice what we teach. And Yoda says, it's either you do it or you do not. There is no try. Either you aim for excellence or you do not aim for excellence. And of course, as higher ed faculty, we aim for excellence because we want to get our students to be aiming for excellence as well. The third pillar is all about community. It is learning to live together, to develop an understanding of people, of diversity, of coexistence, respecting the rights of others, so that we have a healthy, sustainable way of coexisting with our planet and all the living things in our planet, whether we see them or not, like the mycelium. And we live together in a shared world. And so we can fight for social justice for everyone. And our pedagogies must promote inclusion and equity. And I think this is very glaring now. Now that we are transitioning, we cannot just plan for our students who are online. We have to plan for all learners because some of them might not be able to reach us through technology, and we must continue to reach out to them using other means like telephony or using printed material, mail, snail mail, delivery systems, and so on. So it's very important for us to protect that. And as Yoda says, when we do these things, when the force inside you is pushing you to do good things, we become luminous beings beyond the flesh and blood that we are. Finally, the fourth pillar of learning in the 21st century from the UNESCO is a bit tricky because it is learning to be. What does that mean, learning to be? It means being independent, that judgment and personal responsibility are together. You accept and treasure your own person, your roots, your culture, and we accept shared responsibility. Learning to be means that we aim for competence development. We aim in our profession as faculty members to continue to be mindful. For example, in a very old framework of competence development by Robinson, he puts or she puts the first base as conscious in unconscious incompetence. In other words, you do not know that you do not know. And then later on, you know that you do not know. I used to tease as a very young faculty member, I used to say that the students who are hardest to teach are those who do not know that they do not know. Right? But our target is unconscious competence. That you know, you don't need to be forever on top of it. You know, and you behave as you know, and you be. And so you're always striving for that. You are always striving for when there's something new, so you know that you are not yet competent and you move towards competence, and then it becomes part of you. It becomes, as they say, procedural knowledge or procedural competence. You know how to do it. And I think that this is what we are all trying to achieve for ourselves as faculty members. We need to be able to achieve this because we need to be secure when we work in environments that are full of new things in the way that we were thrown into the deep end by the pandemic. And this is my last slide. We need to be able to release the energy within us so that we can create the change faster. We have been thrown to these challenges because of the pandemic, but also because of the mega trends. Industry 5.0 is just there. Education 5.0 must happen, and it must happen now. And our strength as teachers and as members of the faculty of higher education is what will change education for our students. We don't need huge, dramatic changes in our education environment, though that would be nice. What we will need is to harness the power in us to be creative, competent, problem solvers, so that we can forge the path towards new things, exciting things in all our fields of expertise. Thank you very much, and may the force be with you.